Welcome back to Clear Skies Retirement with Jay Kirkwood at Secure Financial Management, a show where we sit down and talk about the issues of retirement, what you're thinking, what you're worried about. We would love to have the opportunity to talk you through that. And that's why we have this show, is to just kind of bring up some of those issues and introduce you to Jay. So we're going to talk today about having a meeting about retirement. And if I were to tell you right now is a great time for your year-end meeting, and you're looking at me going, year end? We're only, we just started fall, for crying out loud. But you know what? Once we get to Halloween, I mean, it just flies by. I mean, if you want to have a meeting about your retirement and tax planning and you want to do it the third week of December, well, good luck. We're going to need a little time here. But I mean, when we talk about end of the year planning, Jay, there's a window of opportunity tax-wise that ends on December 31st. There's another window that ends on April 15th. So let's concentrate right now on that December 31st. What are end of the year meetings like, specifically in the area of taxes? And so tell me what the conversation is like and why people should take you up on that.
Yeah, so we've already started our end of year meetings, Randy, believe it or not. And
I do. Yeah.
It's for what you said, after Halloween, yeah, everyone's a bit checked out, really, right? It's hey, we got Thanksgiving, we got Christmas, understandable, and most of the focus is that we're looking at, all right, do we have capacity here to do some tax planning? Do we have capacity here to do some Roth conversions? Are there any other kind of levers we can pull on here to get us in the best situation for those taxes that we're going to be doing next year? That's the heavy focus on it. I had 4 of them this last week with clients, and that was the whole focus on it. It's a tax preparation meeting, essentially.
So this is a year where we have had a pretty good year in the stock market, so people have probably had some gains, and they may have, in some places in their portfolio, had some losses. So explain to me what tax loss harvesting is. How much of that do you do? Is it a lengthy process? Is it difficult? Who does it? Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, when we're talking tax loss harvesting, just remember that we're always talking about non-qualified accounts for that. So, just to give a bit of a definition here, the accounts essentially break up into two buckets, right? Qualified accounts and non-qualified accounts. And all that means is qualified accounts are, think of your traditional IRAs, your rollovers, your 401ks, basically things that have not been taxed yet. And there is no opportunity for tax loss harvesting. We can do tax management there, and that's what the focus of most of our meetings this last week have been on. With tax loss harvesting, we're talking about accounts that are not tax deferred, and we might have some big gains in there. Look, if you've owned NVIDIA for a while, Microsoft, whatever it is, right? Any of these companies that have really done well, you might have some big gains in there. Well, they're not taxable till you sell them. But probably what's happened in your portfolio too is your risk is out of whack, because these have become larger elements of that. Those NVIDIA type things have become larger elements of that portfolio. And you might be looking at, well, I've kind of got too much exposure in this tech bucket, but I don't want to sell it because then I'm going to have to pay taxes on it. Well, look, if you're like most people, you've probably got some losers in that portfolio as well, right? It happens. It's part of investing. So, can we realize some of those losses, offset that against some of our gains, and help rebalance our portfolio in a tax-efficient manner? Yeah, with tax loss harvesting, we can.
And it's interesting that you say that, because this sounds like a person, they didn't change anything within their portfolio. I didn't buy any more NVIDIA. I didn't do anything in my portfolio, but just simply because that one stock has grown so much that it becomes a bigger part of the portfolio than you ever really wanted it to.
Just, you could have done nothing all year, and there's a handful of stocks you could have owned. I mean, Oracle just recently was up. I can't remember the number, but it was 30% or something, some ridiculous amount in one day. It made Larry Ellison, who's the founder, I think he was the founder of Oracle, the richest man in the world, at least for a while, right? Just because the stock went up. So take him, for example. His exposure to Oracle is even more now in his portfolio than it used to be, because it went up so much in a short period of time. That's happening in most people's portfolios in a much smaller way, obviously. But that's happening in most people's portfolios over time. Is, look, we got these winners, they're just knocking it out of the park, and now we have a lot of exposure to them unintentionally.
Well, if you were to be buying CDs, you'd probably have to make a decision every 6 months. Do I want to do more? Do I want to do less? Do I want to sell?
That's right.
There's a time for a decision. There is a time for decision with your finances, with your financial world, and with your retirement planning. One of those times is right now, before that window closes on December 31st. Let's take advantage of what is there and look at where you are right now. And then there's another window that closes on April 15th. Let's have the meeting now. Give us a call. It's not too early for an end of the year meeting. If you don't have anybody in your life right now that's helping you with your retirement planning, give Jay a call. Here's our number. Here's our website, retire210.com. Pretty easy. Retire210.com. Bottom of the page is a place for you to put some information. We'll call you and start the conversation. There's no cost for that. And you can call us as well. 210-985-6200. 210-985-6200. Now, when you're doing a retirement plan, we've talked about doing an analysis of your 401k and diving in there and putting it under the microscope. And one of the things that you're going to find is there's fees in there. Somebody's charging you a little bit for this, or maybe they're charging you a lot for this, and you don't even know it. A lot of people walk out of that room wide-eyed going, I had no idea. This is what Warren Buffett talks about fees.
Costs really matter in investments. If returns are going to be 7 or 8% and you are paying 1% for fees, that makes an enormous difference in how much money you have on retirement.
And that's looking at things over not just a one-year situation, but looking at things over maybe an entire retirement. Tony Robbins has been saying a lot about these things in his books. What do these fees mean to you as far as time in retirement and how much it costs?
A 1% in fee, because of the compounding over time, costs you 10 years of retirement income. The average person thinks they're paying less than 1% or nothing, and they're paying 3.1%. That's 30 years of fees.
Wow. Okay, so that's big.
Yeah.
So there's another way we can save money. Now, it's one thing to pay you for what you're doing for us. It's another thing to look in there and say, this is costing me money, this is costing me money. And when you add it all up, how am I going to get ahead if I'm paying 4% in fees or 3% in fees, as Tony Robbins is saying?
Yeah. No, he's absolutely right. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, Andy, you have two options, right? You work with somebody or you do it yourself. Like if somebody, that's kind of their full-time job, I'm going to manage my portfolio, you should do it. Maybe they're very good at it and they're interested in it, right? Look, I know people that they're not going to, I know a guy that cuts his own hair because he won't go and pay a hairdresser to cut it, right? And
How does he look?
And it looks like he cuts his own hair too, right? And like, all right, like you do whatever you do, man. That's okay. Like that's all right. But like if whatever it is you're going to engage in, you're going to pay something, right? It's what am I getting for what I'm paying? And is it reasonable? Look, these people that come to us that are paying 2+%, it's just, it's bananas. I don't know how those guys are still in business, actually, that are charging that. Somehow they are, right? And I think it's because of what Tony said, actually, there is, they just don't know, right? I don't know what I'm paying. It all comes out, right? And do you have someone that you're paying regardless of the price, right? Do you have someone that you're paying that the level of service that's being provided is you get a newsletter once a quarter? Or once a month, right? Is that the level of service that's being provided? Or is it someone that's doing, we focus on the retirement planning side of it, right? There's lots of advisors out there, very few focus specifically on retirement planning and retirement income like we do. But is there a retirement income plan being created for you? Is there a coordination with the estate planning side of it? Is there tax management brought in? And then you look at the picture and you say, for some of our tax management clients, our larger clients, the savings could be multiple 6 figures over the lifetime of their retirement if the taxes are managed properly. So what are you getting for your money? Are you going to have to pay to work with us or somebody else? If they're good at what they do, they're going to charge you. Are you getting a return on what you're paying for? I think is the big thing.
Yeah, sometimes we believe that, if my oil change costs $65 or if my oil change costs $150, that $150 must be better because those people must be more qualified because they're charging more. No, not necessarily so. And
it's the same oil, same filter.
Exactly. So I think that we have to sit down and say, how much am I getting for what I'm paying? I mean, I always go back to my lawn service. I pay like $30 a week. I've got the deal of the century. They come over and they mow my lawn, and then they blow the leaves, they do the bushes, they do the weeding, they do all the other stuff too. And it's because I don't have much of a backyard. It's all kind of wild. So they just charge me really for the front. But it really, to me, it's more than just mowing the lawn. They do all the other stuff too. I think that you need to look at financial planning the same way. If you are just getting investment advice, that's one thing. But in your line of work, it's Social Security, it's Medicare, can I retire early, it's tax loss harvesting, it's estate planning. All of that stuff goes into that realm. And people should be looking for that, shouldn't they?
Well, and I think people are slowly coming to that realization, because we had a client come over this week. So he'd been with another advisor, I don't know, a long time, maybe 10 years or so. And he's actually come to see me 2 or 3 times in the last month. He's like, I guess he's warming up to it. And he's like, well, I've got to end this other relationship with this advisor. And it's hard. Like, I know the guy, right? Like, it's not something that I want to do. I've hung out with him socially, all these sorts of things. And he just said, but, I kind of confronted him a little bit the other day. And I said, hey, like, you're basically on autopilot with this, right? Like, I haven't seen anything happen in my portfolio in years. I kind of think I'm doing okay, but I don't. I don't know if my plan is on track. I don't really know anything, and I need more. And we've had some clients that have basically referred us, and they've come to some events and stuff, and they said, we want more of what you offer. Like, yes, there's planning, there's tax management, there's the estate planning, but it's also, there's just more engagement. Like, they came to one of our mid-year economic outlooks, and he said, I've been wanting this sort of information for years. I just wasn't getting it, and I didn't know where to go. And so I think that's a great example of, there's lots of good people out there that are well-intended, but they're on autopilot. They really are, a lot of these advisors.
As you're listening to us now, you fall into one of 2 categories. You either have an advisor or you don't. Okay? If you have an advisor, what are you getting? What are you getting for what you're paying? And if it's not value when it comes to retirement planning, that might be something that you consider and say, I need to get with somebody who's in that area and specializes in that area, and that's what Jay does. And if you don't have an advisor right now and you're looking for that help, give us a call, and let's sit down and start the conversation. Do a little nuts and bolts work on your retirement. Here's our number. It's retire210.com. That's our website, retire210.com, or give us a call, 210-985-6200. 210-985-6200. All right, so what are the ages of your kids, Jay? I know you got a brand new baby, but what are the ages of your kids?
4 months, 3 years, and 5 years.
Okay, so you're not quite in that area where they're bringing home homework where you have to sit down and try to figure all that stuff out quite yet. That's coming.
I'm not looking forward to it either. Like, the math, I'm like, yeah, bring it on. I can do it. But English and spelling and grammar, actually, we got a problem with that, right? Because I'm not good at that. My wife's first language is Spanish. I was like, I don't know what we're going to do when it comes to that.
Okay, all right. Well, Nate Bargatze, a very funny comedian, very clean and fun comedian, is now helping his daughter with her homework, and he has really thrown him into a loop when it comes to the math.
If you don't know Common Core math, it's just basically a long way to get to the same answer. And even when you break it down, you see old math sneak in there. I mean, you're like, that was old math right there. Just do that at the beginning. I told my wife, it's a long way to get to the same thing. It would be if you came to my house and you knocked on the front door and you're like, can I come in? And I was like, could you walk around and come in through the back door? And you would be like, does the front door not work? And it's like, it works. It works fine. I use it. Most people still use it. But the new way is to go jump the fence, come in the back, and then meet me back here.
It is so true. I went through it with my kids, and I'm sure a lot of you are experiencing that as well. But, sometimes the new stuff isn't necessarily the best stuff. And I got to believe that there are financial advisors out there that are dangling the latest stock or the latest strategy or the new thing. Bitcoin comes to mind, all these different things. Jay, do you have people that say things like that? Or what about Bitcoin? Or what about this strategy? Or I've heard this. I was watching CNBC and I heard Kevin O'Leary talk about this. Why shouldn't we be doing that? Do you go through that?
Yeah, it happens all the time. And that guy, Nate, have you heard of him before, Andy?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's got some great Netflix specials. But yeah, as far as the shiny new objects, I think it's important not to dismiss everything that's new just because it's new. You should have your eyes open to it, but you should also approach it with a very strong dose of skepticism, because I just had a client send me something from Facebook and they're like, oh my God, should we be doing this? And this lady was going on about how the Trump family is secretly setting up this bank behind the scenes and they're doing, and at the end of it, I was like, I'm pretty sure I know where this lady's going. She's trying to sell a cash value life insurance policy to people. That's the whole end point, right? And so I just said to them, I was like, hey, look, if you want to review it, you can. I don't think you need life insurance, and that's where they're going with this, right?
Gotcha.
So whatever you might see on the surface often is not what the end result will be. And we've talked about this before. Like, I watch CNBC all the time. Like, I've got it running in the office, just kind of in the background, watching what's going on. I feel bad for these guys. They've got to fill like 16 hours a day with content that people actually want to watch. Yeah. And the way you get people to watch is you talk about dramatic stuff. That's how you get people to tune in. Like, you know, if you go to the grocery store and you see that, I guess they still have magazines. I haven't been to the grocery store in years. They sell the magazines near where you check out. The front cover is not something boring and dull, right? It's something crazy and dramatic to get you to pick it up and say, all right, what's all this about? And then you read it, you're like, oh, it's actually nothing. Okay, that's what it is most of the time.
Mom always said, all that glitters is not gold, the old saying there, which actually brings me to something like that, because we see these commercials all the time on TV about gold. You know, everybody should have gold in their portfolio. And I mean, honestly, if you look at what gold has done, it's gone up a lot in the last, year or so. But it overall, not necessarily the best thing for everybody, commodities and things like that.
Yeah, well, like, you're right. Like, in the last, maybe it's even a couple of years, gold has outperformed a lot of other asset classes. But go back and look at it since the year 2000. And look at kind of what the performance has been until you get to this point. And again, like, should there be some gold in your portfolio? Probably wouldn't hurt to have a little bit of gold in your portfolio. Should it be all that you have? Probably not as well.
You're listening to Clear Skies Retirement with Jay Kirkwood at Secure Financial Management. Online, you can find us at retire210.com. If it's time to talk about your retirement, or you see something out there and you go, my friends are investing in this, or that looks really good, or, maybe I can hit a home run right before retirement. Okay, we've heard it all before, and let's look into it. Let's do some analysis of it. Maybe it's for you, maybe it's not, or maybe it's for you for a little portion of your portfolio. Let's look at it. Here's our number and here's our website, 210-985-6200. That's our number, 210-985-6200, or our website, retire210.com, and there's a place for you to put some information in there at the bottom. And then what happens? So let's talk about that a little bit. On the website, you're going to see the Get Me to Retirement 5-step process. Somebody gives you a call. We're going to have a conversation, and then what happens, Jay?
Yeah, so we have an initial meeting, and it kind of takes people by surprise sometimes. So they come in, and we're just having a chat. And they'll say, when are we going to get to the recommendations? And what? I was like, well, hold up. I just need to know what's going on with you. And I say, just relax. If you want to grab a drink, grab something to eat, and we're going to talk, right? We're just going to learn about what your situation is. Because really, nobody can give proper recommendations or create a plan without digging way into what's going on in someone's financial life. Right. So our first meeting, and I'll start setting expectations early on. Just, hey, all we're going to do is just chat today about where you are, where you want to be, and what have we got to work with to get you there. Once we know that, we can put a plan together. We can implement that plan. And this is the big part where most advisors, I believe, fall down. We talked earlier about a lot of these advisors are just on autopilot, right? Kind of just, everything's just kind of chugging along. You get a newsletter quarterly or whatever, and you don't really know what's happening. There needs to be monitoring of that plan. If we have someone who comes in and is going to retire at 60, you don't kind of think of it this way, but it's likely you'll be in retirement for several decades, at least a couple of decades, right? And whatever assumptions you've used on your planning, I tell people, hey, we're using this assumed rate of return, we're building in inflation, whatever it is, all these different assumptions to build the plan. What I tell them is, what I can promise you is that this plan is not going to unfold exactly the way that we have it built out right now, because we're looking at multiple decades and things are going to happen. We're going to have to pivot. We're going to have to re-strategize on some things. And how can you do that if you're not constantly following up and meeting and updating that plan, right? How? Things get out of whack. They get off course. That's the biggest fall down I see in a lot of is the ongoing planning. We talk about tax management a lot, right, on the show. Well, that's all part of it. That's all part of the ongoing process of staying on top of your retirement and making sure the plan that we created actually comes to fruition.
So getting to know you, getting to know what you want to do in retirement, getting to know what you've done for retirement, and then sitting down at that point and saying, okay, let's plan some things out here, build you the income that you need, and then the ongoing help, because your life's going to change, as Jay has said. I mean, there's times when people get sick and all of a sudden they can't do the stuff that they want to do, or
that's right.
A kid moves back in with you or something like that, or you go down to Florida and you find the perfect condo and you say, I want to spend 6 months here. I didn't even know this existed. And now the plan changes. So we've got to kind of be nimble on our feet, and that's what we want to do with you. Give us a call. Give us a look on our website. Here it is. It's retire210.com. Down at the bottom of the page, you'll see Jay's book. You'll also see a place for you to put some information in there, and our team will reach out to you, and we'll start that process, that 5-step process of finding out what you want to do in retirement and how we can help. Here's our number. It's 210-985-6200, 210-985-6200. Thanks again for listening to Clear Skies Retirement. If you've enjoyed this podcast and you want to hear more, remember to hit the like, follow, or subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. We'll see you next week here on Clear Skies Retirement with Jay Kirkwood.
Investment advisory services offered through investment advisory representatives at Secure Financial Management, a registered investment advisor. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed are not designed nor intended to be applicable to any person's individual circumstances. It should not be considered as investment advice, nor does it constitute a recommendation that anyone engage in or refrain from a particular course of action. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate, and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Secure Financial Management is licensed in your state, please contact their office. Secure Financial Management is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Wholesalers Insurance. Jamin J. Kirkwood, Texas Insurance License number 1421850.